Northern Ireland to the Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway is as good a place as any to send my season's greetings to you for 2015-2016. You know, this place, it's World Heritage protected, and legend has it that Finn McCool, the Irish giant, built this causeway all the way to Scotland so that he could challenge a Scottish giant to a fight. But when he walked over and saw how big the Scottish giant was, he just turned around and ran back, went to his wife, "What do I do? What do I do? This guy's huge." And his wife dressed him like a baby. And when the Scottish giant walked down the causeway, took one look at the baby, said, "Wow, if that's how big the baby is, how big's the father? I don't want to fight him." So he ran back to Scotland, ripping up the causeway as he went. That's what the legend says. Anyway, it's actually a whole bunch of naturally occurring 5, 6 and 7 sided columns that were created by volcanic activity millions of years ago. Anyway, World Heritage protected, Giant's Causeway. From here, season's greetings. Hope your 2015 has been good and 2016 will be better. St. Petersburg, Russia. First time here since 1992, just after the wall came down. Cathedral of Saviour and Blood. So first time I came here, I hopped on the train in Moscow and it said going to Leningrad, and I got off in St. Petersburg. The authorities here had already changed its name, but Moscow hadn't yet agreed. St. Petersburg here was founded in the beginning of the 1700s, and the capital moved from Moscow up to here. Most famously known nowadays for the Hermitage. You might be thinking it's a lovely evening with the lights and the flag and the grey skies, but it's about 10:30 in the morning. That's what happens when you're near the Arctic Circle. That is the Winter Palace of Catherine the Great, built in about 1732, I think, and it was the home of the Russian Tsars from the 1730s until 1917, and it was in there in October 1917 that the Bolsheviks chucked out the provisional government and brought into being what became the Soviet Union. The Hermitage. You don't need to walk around the Hermitage for very long to realise that if the peasants had any idea of how these people lived, they would have had a revolution. Oh wait, they did. More than a century since it ceased being a palace, the Hermitage now hosts one of the world's finest art collections. And indeed, there is no art gallery I've ever been to that hosts so many great masters so close to each other and so accessible as the Hermitage does now. From Matisse to Renoir to Gauguin to Picasso, the whole bit. This is St. Peter and Paul Cathedral in the Peter and Paul Fortress in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg was founded by Peter the Great just after the turn of the 1700s. And he founded St. Petersburg because he needed a port in the north which made access to the Baltic possible. And when you look at a map of Russia and look at where St. Petersburg is, putting the capital here so far from the rest of Russia kind of makes it a bit of an administrative difficulty. And here in St. Peter's and Paul Cathedral, in the fortress, this is where most of the former Tsars were buried. Catherine the Great's buried here, Peter the Great's buried here, and in the 1990s they finally found and proved the bodies of Nicholas II and his family, and they are also buried here. Around the end of Tsar Nicholas's time, the Trubetskoy prison back here was known as one of the worst, because prisoners were held in complete isolation, not able to work, not able to communicate, and it drove them mentally nuts. A whole lot of factors led to the Russian Revolution. Tsar Nicholas II believed in the divine right to rule. He had no connection really with the people. He had a disastrous Russo-Japanese War, 1904-1905, which weakened his authority in the minds of the people. In 1905, Bloody Sunday, where he ordered soldiers to shoot down a number of people who were coming merely to protest. And the disastrous Russian campaign in World War I, 1914 onwards, really completely shattered Russian people's confidence in the Tsar. 1917 had two revolutions, one at the beginning of the year and one at the end. And of course it was the October Revolution in 1917 that brought to the end the Romanov rule.
Leningrad suffered terribly during World War II. With Hitler's invasion, nearly 1 million, 1.5 million, some say up to 2 million citizens of Leningrad died during nearly a 3-year siege, somewhere around about 900 days of total bombardment and destruction brought about by the invading Germans. Hitler was so confident of taking Leningrad, he'd already planned to change the name to Adolfsburg. One can't overestimate how difficult it must have been to survive those terrible conditions without fuel, without food, without ready access to water through the brutal winter that Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, suffers. But ultimately the people did pull through. Hitler was defeated in Leningrad by the Russian winter, like he was around Moscow. And today Leningrad has returned to its former beauty, again known as the Venice of the North.
There's Dennis with his sunglasses in St. Petersburg in winter, almost unheard of. Last day in St. Petersburg and we're heading down to Moscow. And whoa, that sun is bright.
The last thing I should say about St. Petersburg, as we're just about to leave on the Sapsan fast train, is St. Petersburg is one of only 4 cities in the world where I've felt immediately at home. Geneva, Melbourne, St. Petersburg and Ljubljana in Slovenia. It was really great to catch up with my friend Dennis and his family. Again, haven't seen them for 6 years since we went scuba diving together in Indonesia. One of the things that's changed in Russia since I was here 20 years ago is last time I had to take the nighttime train up 3rd class, which was like sleeping in the bottom of a men's urinal, which again was slow. But now, it's a fast train just like the rest of Europe, way in front of Australia.
And every night there is music. Oh, every night there is love. And every night there is light. Here's to you, brother, hey, brother, oh. Hey. Must go, throw your glasses at the wall and the fortune to us all. Hey, must go, join us for a Kazakh jump. We'll go dancing round the clock. Hey, must go, drink the vodka all night long, keeps you happy, makes you strong. Hey, must go, come and have a drink and then you will never leave again.
Behind me here is the Archangel's Cathedral in the Kremlin, where all of the past Tsars are buried from Ivan the Great onwards, up until Peter the Great. Peter, of course, founded St. Petersburg and is buried in the Peter and Paul Fortress with all the Tsars after him, including Nicholas II. But that's where Ivan the Terrible was buried. And this behind me is Assumption Cathedral in the Kremlin, where all the Tsars were crowned, including Peter the Great, Catherine the Great, Nicholas II, Ivan the Terrible. Every single one was crowned in there.
Night there is love, and every night there is laughter. Here's to you, sister, hey, sister, ho. Hey, 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 hey. Moscow, Moscow, throw your glasses at the wall, and the fortune to us all. Ho, 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 ho. Hey, Moscow, Moscow.
I'm standing outside St. Basil's Cathedral here in Moscow, and I'm not wearing this funny hat just to fit in. It's damn cold. In Red Square, Moscow, outside the Kremlin gates. Now, Red Square wasn't called red because this country was run by a whole bunch of commie bastards from 1917 until 1991. It was actually named Red Square because inside the Kremlin was an execution square that back in the 1300s and 1400s was called Red Square. And a couple of centuries later they got rid of all of the old squatter camps and shopping stalls that were here to create a big town square and named it Red Square. The Kremlin is called the Kremlin because it derives from the Russian word meaning fortress inside a city. And given that it's a fortress inside a city, you can see how the name applies. I'll give you the drum. When I was last in Moscow 20 years ago, 23 years ago, just after the Berlin Wall came down, none of these shops were here. Chris, what's the coldest you've ever been in your life?
-10.
-10. When's it -10?
Right now.
Right now. Wearing a hat?
Nope.
Gloves?
Nope.
Show me. No hat, no gloves, -10. Are you surprised how easy it is to acclimatise? G'day! I'm here with my mate Carl. And I'm in Moscow.
Whoop! Whoop!
Here we are at the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. This was finished in 1997 to mark the 850th anniversary of the founding of Moscow. 23 years ago, this was the site of the world's largest swimming pool at the time that Andrew swam in, and apparently, the story goes, his hair froze. Originally, this was the site of a church, an Orthodox church, and in 1931, Stalin had it demolished. His original plan was to have it as a communist headquarters, and he had a plan for a massive statue of Lenin. So I think all in all, everybody believes the outcome that's now here is a much better one for all of us. Inside, it's absolutely beautiful and fantastic to see that despite not being centuries of years old, it absolutely carries forward the beauty and opulence that you'd expect. This is the world's tallest author.
Leningrad, pp.ru.
One of the things Moscow is really well known for is the beauty of their subway stations as well as the extreme efficiency of the subway system. The train comes every couple of minutes into a station that looks like this.
Тогда я мотор торможу. Давай, шеф, поехали к дому. А дорогу сейчас покажу. ВВВ Ленинград, pp.ru. ВВВ Ленинград, pp.ru. Оба! Едем!
Josh, when have you seen snow?
Never.
So what do you think of snow?
It's very cold.
Is it fun?
Yes, when it's right.
Когда переехал, не помню. Наверное, был я бухой. Мой адрес не дом и не улица. Мой адрес...
where would you leave after you go to cold St. Petersburg in Russia? I come to Colombia. Of course.
So I'm here in Colombia.
Oh yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're going to do the video.
The Dumageddon video.
This is Dumageddon, but in Colombia. And Maya. As Ollie said, it's a Sunday afternoon and we're in exotic Dumageddon Airport. Isn't that right, Ollie? Dumageddon. I'm in the Gold Museum here in Bogota in Colombia, looking at all these fine and intricate pieces of gold work that were done throughout the history here, and you can understand why when the Spanish got here, they just went nuts raping and pillaging the place. The amount of gold that was mined and crafted and shaped here is beyond belief, and this is just a handful of what's left over. Most of it was melted down to paper armadas. Some of this gold work is really, really intricate when you think this was all made without modern technology and tools. Gaza National Park in Colombia, outside Bogota, with Ollie.
Dumageddon again.
Dumageddon. You've got to go to Dumageddon. Ooh, so we're out at about 3,500 metres, and Ollie and I are a little short of breath. We're going to claim it's the altitude and not middle age. Good luck with that. This is really pretty, sort of rainforesty, jungle-y type stuff.
Not Dumageddon. Oh.
So for about the last 40 years, local authorities have shut the streets in Bogota on Sundays and allowed people to come out and ride. So the main avenues and the roads feeding it are all closed and people come out to have fun, stalls, bike riding, the whole bit. We should do that in Melbourne. One of the other things about Bogota, in fact Colombia in general, is there are lots of police around. Maybe that's why it feels so safe. We've paused here outside the bullfighting ring here in Bogota. Now, the current mayor and the previous mayor didn't like bullfighting, so they tried to stop it. The courts overruled them, so what they then said is, well, it's a civic bullfighting ring which is under repair and closed for repair.
Someone said you was asking out to me, but I know you best as a blogger. I said, tell me your name, is it sweet? She said, my boy is Dagger. Oh yeah. I was good, she was hot, stealing everything she got. I was bold, she was over the worst of it. Give me gift, thank you dear, bring your sister.
If I'm wrong and God exists, heaven's going to be something like behind this gate, a coffee factory. Of course, the two most famous exports in Colombia are cocaine and coffee. I have to try at least one of them. Our bike tour now about to take us through the edge of the red light district in Bogota. Prostitution within certain zones is legal. While Bogota has surprised me on a number of things about safety, security, etc., the one thing it's not is it's not a pretty city architecturally speaking. Okay, this is Tejo, the official game of Colombia.
Oh yeah. I was good, she was hot, stealing everything she got. I was bold, she was over the worst of it. Give me a kill, thank you dear, bring your sister over here. Let her dance with me just for the hell of it. Oye, la cumbia te está llamando. Juan, oye, la cumbia te está llamando. Juan, oye, la cumbia.
I'm in Cartagena in northern Colombia up on the Caribbean coast. Cartagena was founded in 1533 by Pedro de Hedria, and this was used by the Spanish as their main port in shipping all of the gold back to Spain after they stole it from the Indians. So this town was attacked and sieged often, 4 times in the 16th century alone. The most famous being in 1586 by Sir Francis Drake, meaning the Spanish, using this as their main export hub for gold, decided to fortify the city and build these great walls that remain today, which is why Cartagena is a World Heritage Protected City. And one name that sticks out amongst probably all others is Pablo Escobar, the great drug dealer who died about 20 years ago, ran the Medellin cartels, built up an enormous wealth and created great amounts of violence. When you look at the flag of Colombia, gold, blue and red, it kind of sums that up. Gold symbolizes the gold, the enormous wealth this country has, the natural resources plundered first by the Spanish and the agriculture manipulated by Escobar. The blue, because it's the only country in South America that has a coast both on the Pacific and the Atlantic via the Caribbean Sea. And red symbolizing the violence of not just the colonialism of the Spanish, but also its modern history. But now, 20 years after the destruction of the Medellin cartels, you see a lot more color, a lot more life, and a lot more vibrance in Colombia. And here in Cartagena, you've got great restaurants, cafes, and these beautiful colonial buildings. I'm at San Felipe Castle, outside or in the middle of the town of Cartagena. This was built in the early 1600s, or started in the early 1600s. Took 150 years to complete, and it was Sir Francis Drake's attack, that famous pirate, his attack on Cartagena, that inspired the Spanish to build this. It's said to be the largest fortification of the Spanish Empire outside of Europe, and it was never defeated. Started in 1657, and the first fortifications built in only a year by African slaves. And with the wide sweeping views over the plain, overlooking the harbour, you can see how it would have been very difficult, in fact impossible, to take this castle. Behind me here is the Inquisition Museum in Cartagena, reminding us that Spain ruled this place for hundreds of years, and for over 200 of those there was a permanent body in government to rule out or weed out the heretics and the non-Catholic believers using torture, punishment, burning at the stake. Now, I need to draw a strong differentiation here. What I'm about to say is very anti-Catholic Church as an institution, not necessarily against the believers of the Catholic version of Christianity. I can respect someone's individual beliefs, but the institution I have no respect for. This is one of the reasons. I mean, when you add the Inquisition to the institutionalized cover-up of pedophilia, the anti-gay movements, the actions against contraception, the mere stealing of wealth from poor communities the church themselves say that they're supposed to be helping. This place here, the Inquisition Museum, reminds us how bad and evil people can be when they're in power, and it just so happens that one of the most evil throughout their history is the Catholic Church. Even when you step further away from the mainstream, you come into the markets down near the more slummy areas. Hello? People are also very, very friendly. I mean, it feels like a developing country then, but doesn't feel in any way unsafe. And I've got to tell you, it's really surprised me. You know, I have a pretty good antenna for what is not safe, and I don't feel unsafe in any way at all in this place. It has really surprised me. It feels like a mid-level economy. It's growing, and then again, it's nearly 20 years since the end of the troubles with the Escobar's drug cartels. There's still trouble with the smaller cartels, and don't get me wrong, there's violence, especially if you go into the slums, but the normal areas of this place feels much safer than many of the countries I've been to in the world, with beautiful coast, beautiful beaches, and nature that is World Heritage protected, and cultural buildings that are World Heritage protected. Come to Colombia, seriously. In life you sometimes put a lot of faith in people you don't know. And I'm currently going down a river in Venezuela. I don't know where we're going.
All night to the new sunrise. Pass me a drink or maybe two. One for me and one for you. And we'll be free.
Morning in the Orinoco Delta. This landscape here is the Orinoco Delta in the northeast of Venezuela. 30,000 square kilometres, about the size of Belgium, with some of the world's most amazing wildlife. Piranhas in every river. If you cut yourself, don't go swimming. There it is, the second ever piranha fish I caught. The first one I caught was in the Piranha River in Brazil. Macaws, monkeys, dolphins, all in this beautiful natural landscape.
There's nothing in between what we are, what we see. There's nothing in between.
Here's a bit of trivia for you. The Orinoco River that feeds the Orinoco Delta here sends the third most amount of fresh water to the ocean, behind only the Amazon and the Congo River. There you go.
Just take one last look around.
Yeah, and every place feels like a familiar town.
The indigenous people of this region are the Warao people. They've been here for over 7,000 years and have a distinct language group. There are 3 distinct language groups: Venezuela, with a number of subgroups. But the linguists say that the Warao people's language derives from that of the border regions between Brazil and Paraguay, which is many thousands of kilometres away. Give you a sense of how far people have moved. The Warao people here have full land ownership rights, in a sense more developed than the native title we have in Australia. And indeed in the schools it is by law required to teach the children both in Spanish and in the native language, which is both a good idea for preserving native language, but a problem in finding the right number of high quality teachers who are bilingual. Here in Orinoco Eco Camp, the facilities are right on the water. In fact, at high tide you sleep in a little hut over the water. No hot water or anything like that. It's not exactly a luxury camp, but it is good staff, good guides, and gives you the real feel of being in the middle of the jungle, because we're in the middle of the jungle. Plenty of mosquitoes in this jungle, and damn glad for the DEET. Let me show you something else about Venezuela, which is kind of good for the traveller and not so good for the Venezuelans. It's really cheap here, and the reason it's cheap here is because this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is worth about $60. That's worth about $10. That total is worth about $60 because of the collapse in the local currency. Viva the revolution, Hugo Chavez. And while the Orinoco Delta might not be as well known as other places in Venezuela, it is stunning and worth visiting. But where we're going next is well known. Okay, this is one of the bucket list things. Angel Falls. Carlos and me, we're going for a fly.
The night, dream on, baby, that's alright. If you wanna dream, it's okay. You can dream all through the day. I said dream, it's alright. You can dream all through the night. Keep on moving if you gotta go, just as long as you stay with the flow. Be somewhere you wanna be. Keep on grooving, cause that's the key.
Kamena Airport, just the Angel Falls, and oh, that's a bucket list thing gone, and it was really good. Okay, it could be a little bit disappointing because there wasn't much water flowing down it because of El Nino and a drought, but we knew all of that, and it was still there, and it was still fantastic. And the landscape. Woo.
It's alright. You can dream all through the night.
This area of Venezuela near the Angel Falls is home of the Pemon people. This is the traditional housing design of the Pemon people, and you might be wondering why it's looking deserted. Well, it's because they're actually building this as a movie set. In many ways, this reminds me of the design of the traditional Mongolian ger. Round, the families live here and just hang their hammocks up. Spectacular. And it reminds me in many ways of some parts of Australia and also some parts of Africa. And considering it's the same latitude, more or less, as Northern Australia, it's not that much of a surprise. I'll grant you I've not been to Caracas yet. So Venezuela hasn't been as people have described it. Unfriendly, dangerous, dirty and ugly. It's actually been really friendly and stunningly beautiful. Can you imagine something better? Angel Falls is that way, the Venezuelan jungle is that way. There's almost no one here in this river. Magnificent. Okay, this is an Australian speaking here, but the sand, the white sand on this river beach is some of the best I've ever had my feet in. What do you do after a swim? Lunch. You know, the Kanema National Park is more than just Angel Falls. It's World Heritage protected because of the tabletop mountains, the lovely rivers and the amazing nature. I'm here at the Sapa waterfall. It's spectacular, surrounded by this beautiful green plains, mountains off in the distance, table mountains, rugged rocks to set the water churning. And in the wet season it all comes flowing over this huge drop. But now in the dry season it's missing one thing: water. So in the dry season Sapa Falls might not have water, but plenty of other waterfalls do.
And the folks smiled at me. My dog and she fawned on me. I could tell him what I think about him.
And what's all that?
Just like on the street, I see his brand new car. It sparkles and gleams without any scratch by now.
This one is Acha Waterfall, and it makes me think of Beacon in my office 10 years ago when I say something stupid and she says Acha. We're currently right behind the Acha Waterfall.
No, 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 I wouldn't be alive, but I want to. Oh, I shouldn't, I wouldn't be alive, but I want. Yes, 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 I want. Oh, I shouldn't do
Some of the people here have a magnificent view from their house. I want to buy this one. Having an after day walking beer, but check out the setting. The only downside about this place is this is the most expensive beer in all of Venezuela. It's 1,000 bolivar, which is about $1.20. And just to put that in perspective, petrol in this country is about 1 bolivar 19 a litre. That's about 1/8 of a cent a litre for petrol. And on money, I have a 2 bolivar note, which has got to go down as the lowest value piece of money I have ever had. Because 2 bolivar is worth about 1/4 of 1 cent in a note. I am so coming back to Venezuela. Welcome to Isla Santa Cruz Island. The main island of the Galapagos chain. Galapagos, famous for Charles Darwin and the origin of the species, where he didn't say survival of the fittest. The Galapagos island chain is governed by Ecuador. It's part of Ecuador. Most of it is declared a national park, so you're only allowed to go to very specific parts unless you've got some very good scientific reason. Even in these parts though, there is some really incredible jungle. A lot of bird and animal species like the famous Galapagos iguana, which show an incredible lack of human fear. You have the sea lions that even wild ones were basking next to the pool in my hotel. The Galapagos tortoise is the largest species of tortoise in the world. One of only 2 areas where the giant tortoise still lives in the world, here in Galapagos and also in Aldabra, which is east of Tanzania in Africa. There are 15 species of giant tortoise. 10 still exist today. The 11th had only one known example, which was Lonesome George, who died in 2012. The giant tortoise can live up to 170 years in captivity and well over 100 years in the wild. Charles Darwin studied the giant tortoise when he was here and looked at the differences between the subspecies, and that helped define his theory of evolution. I was saying earlier that Charles Darwin didn't coin the phrase survival of the fittest. He actually didn't. That was coined by an economist, Spencer, in comparing his economic theories with Charles Darwin's theories on evolution. He talked about the survival of the fittest. Darwin liked the phrase so much that he incorporated it into the 5th edition of his book. Darwin's theories, now known as survival of the fittest or the theory of evolution, wasn't about the biggest eating the smallest. It was actually about which species was able to reproduce itself and more fit for reproduction. Now, it wasn't just the giant tortoise that's worried about reproduction and birds that have nice colourful feathers to attract the opposite sex. Of course, humans are well known for dressing up to attract the opposite sex. And my hat doesn't help. I'm just at the breakfast table watching some pelicans hatch their breakfast. Geologically speaking, Galapagos Islands are relatively young and are very volcanic. Islands are created, or mid-ocean islands are often created when the Earth's continental plate shift over a hot space in the mantle and send magma up to create islands like Hawaii. Well, Galapagos is created that way as well. Many old volcanic formations here, including old lava tunnels, which are formed, as I descend into one, which are formed when lava cools or flows subterraneanly
and cools on the outside, creating a tunnel through which the lava flowed. And you can see here, this is the edge of what looks like the inside of a giant barbecue because it's raw volcanic rock. And you can just imagine hot magma flowing through here at an enormous speed as the rock around it cooled. Many of the islands of the Galapagos chain don't have rainforest as such. It's more mist forest where a constant mist comes in, dampening the soil. This really is beautiful. I really do like being on my own in the jungle. I'm now standing on the rim of an ancient caldera, the mouth of a volcano. There are two of these next to each other here on Santa Cruz, and down there is unique life, unique plants and trees that exist nowhere else in the world except down there. You can walk around the cliff edge, but going down you need ropes, and you step right up to the lip of this caldera and reach out, look over this huge drop down into this floor of all this jungle which you just love to explore. I wonder how you get down there, or get permission to get down there. Now in Galapagos, not all the good stuff is on land. Some of it is underwater.
Tainted a picture of us now, forever forgive. Cause little Missy Misery set foot in the ocean but never the sea. I'll bury her into the ground next to the old...
Perhaps the last thing I should say about Quito, surrounded in this beautiful little hotel, is Quito, the capital of Ecuador, was one of the first, or in the first batch of 17 places that was put on the UNESCO World Heritage Area. Maybe you should come and have a look. That's it from Ecuador.
Time for another fly, this time over the Grand Canyon.
When I wander, see right through you, flying high in Freddy voodoo, lucid dreaming, magic wonder. Can you see this spell I'm under? Make you wonder with that rhythm, feel it moving through your system. Step on steppers, step up to it. All you got to do is do it, yeah.
This place is called Eagle Point, and it's sacred to the Hualapai people. And it's called Eagle Point because the rock formation there kind of looks like a bald eagle with its wings outstretched.
Oh,
standing here on the outskirts of Las Vegas, and I gotta tell you, I don't like Las Vegas. It reminds me a lot of Dubai. It's very, very false. To give you an idea of just how false, Las Vegas was named by the Spanish because Las Vegas means the meadows, because this was a oasis in the desert covered by the green. And we humans are so smart. We took all of that green in the middle of the desert and covered it in concrete. So as I'm driving down Highway 15, I think it is, in the middle of Utah, there's a lot of things I expected to see. But high up on the list of what I never expected to see were emus.
I tell you, why I hated Vegas, I certainly loved the Zion National Park.
What I'm doing,
Turn right onto the I-40 West Road.
I-40 is the old historic Route 66.
If you're going to visit any ride in Disneyland, it's got to be this one.